Hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing? Just gonna do another one of those funny or effed up stories about my life. Um, this one goes back to when I was in grade five. It's not like funny. I don't even really think it's funny, but anyway, it was just something that happened to me when I was a kid. That something that when I think about, it still kind of pisses me off. But anyway, so get right to it. When this was grade five, so I would have been like 10 years old, and so I'm in my classroom and with all the other kids, doing whatever. And then this guy I never seen before, who's apparently he was a counselor or something, comes to our classroom door, and he's standing there with some little girl, probably about 2 years or so younger than myself. So he she points at me. I'd never seen this kid before in my life. I never seen him before in my life, and so he points. She points at me and he nods, whatever, and then they go away. And I'm thinking that was weird. Like what was that about? So anyway, a little bit of time goes by, like a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, let's say, and then he comes into the classroom, talks to the teacher. I remember her name was what was her name, Miss Tool or something like that. But anyway, so they take me out of the classroom. He takes me down to the principal's office or whatever, and takes me into his little office, and he has the door open and everything. So he sits me down. Now this part's almost laughable, I guess, because he was a guidance counselor and now he thinks he's a police officer. So he's sitting. He has me seated in the corner, kind of like an interrogation room. I'm at a table. He's on one side. It wasn't a desk. I remember it was a table, and he was sitting on the other side. And about 10 feet away was the door leading out of his office, whatever. So he starts talking to me. Like, is there anything you want to tell me? And I have no idea why I'm there. I don't know what's going on. I just know that they're at the classroom a few minutes ago. This little kid points at me, and now I'm in the office talking to this porn stash guy. So it was the '80s, but yeah, I remember he had a mustache and frizzy hair, curly hair, or something. I can't remember. So anyway, so he starts saying that I was a bully and I was picking on this little girl who I'd never seen before, didn't know her name, I had no clue who she was or why she even pointed at me. I had no idea what was going on. So, you know, I'm sitting there saying, I don't know who that is. I didn't do anything. What's this about? Kind of thing. The way a kid would say it, though, not the way I would say it now. Because now I just wouldn't say anything. I'd be like, I'm not saying a word. I don't know what's going on. So, get me a lawyer. But at 10 years old, you're more concerned about trying to not get in trouble than knowing your rights and all that sort of stuff. And the fact that he was a student counselor or whatever, not a police officer by any means. So he's going on again, and he starts telling me that she was saying I did this and this and this, and he's like, tell me what you did, and we can get through this. He's literally, I remember certain things he said. I remember everything verbatim, but I do remember a few key things. And when I look back at police interrogation videos and stuff, it's funny how much he was trying to mirror that. I don't know if he was a wannabe cop, and he was trying to get his practice by scaring children. But so anyway, eventually he starts saying things that she accused me of, but without actually saying them. And he goes, if you admit to what you've done, you're not going to get in trouble, and stuff like that, basically telling me to tell him all these things that I supposedly did. So now I'm getting kind of scared because I'm scared of getting in trouble. I'm just a kid, right? So reality, I probably could have just told him to go fuck himself and then got suspended, and maybe gotten a little bit of trouble for my parents for that. But then when I told them what was going on, it might have gone a little bit differently in my favor. But I'll get to that part of the story anyway. So as things are going on, he's saying all this stuff, and then so I start, because I'm scared of getting in trouble, I start admitting to things I didn't do. Which is kind of, sometimes if it's a bad cop, if it's not a good cop, that's a tactic they use, and sometimes people do confess to things they didn't do because they're scared, they're stressed, and they just don't know what else to say. So I was kind of in that situation, but as a 10-year-old, there's this grown ass man threatening a 10-year-old to stuff that I had done. And again, I don't know who this little girl was. I'd never seen her before in my life, or at least I didn't recognize her. And I certainly was not a bully. In fact, I was the kid who got bullied back in those days. I was not one to pick on someone. I was too busy running away from the actual bullies. I was not a tough kid. So, anyway, so he was saying things sort of what he was saying. So I started going on, and then he would add to what I was saying to just kind of get me to confess this other thing. So according to him now at this point, I would stop her on the ground, stop her, make her get on the ground and kiss my shoes and all this other vile bullshit crap that never happened. At least I'm not saying it didn't happen to her, but it didn't happen. I didn't. It wasn't me that did it. So anyway, the funny thing was, two cops did come into the school. It had nothing to do with what was going on in there, but there were two police officers, and I even thought for a second of going and getting them because I was scared. Right? I didn't know what this guy was doing or who he was. I didn't even know he worked. Like I'd never seen him before either. But he had his own office there and whatever. But so anyway, in hindsight, yeah, it would have been good. Excuse me, officers, and this and this, and then had them come in the room and deal with this guy. So we go through this, and the funny thing is nothing came of it. Now the day the school day is over. I'd been in the office probably for a couple of hours. So he sends me home, and now I'm in tears because I'm 10, and I just had this adult yelling at me. Now I don't know what's going to happen. This girl accused me of something I didn't do, and so I go home and I'm crying, and my mom doesn't know why. She's like what happened? What's going on? So I told her, and she was furious because she knew, my parents aren't dumb. Your kid. If your kid's the bully kid, and if your kid's the victim kid, or if your kid's just sort of somewhere in the gray zone where just a regular kid. Your parents know. They can tell. They're not dumb. So anyway, the cat's sitting near the little guy dreaming. He's kicking his feet. But so anyway, now I don't remember exactly how this went down. I know that my mom called the school. Now I can't remember right away if my dad was home yet or if she called or no, sorry, it was the next day. But she talked to him, my dad, when he got home and stuff. And so my mom the next day, now I can't remember exactly how it went, but I know they were both there, and my mom called, and the guy, I think, was somebody was rude to her on the phone. So my dad called back and said that he wanted an apology, and if the guy didn't apologize, my dad was going to go to the school to make him apologize. Now, again, I've mentioned this many times in my videos. My dad's not a little guy like me. He's a big guy, right? Like, and when he goes into beast mode, look out, especially back then. He could, if he lost his temper and snap, just clear the room because there you'd be safer if a tornado went through there. You know what I mean? Especially if he was mad, you were the person he was mad at, let's say, like, you know, but he's a lot calmer now. But not to say he was a mean guy or anything like that. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. He wasn't. But like he didn't take shit. Let's put it that way. And so when I went back to school, it was like nothing happened. I didn't get an apology, and I know my mom said something about I know my son. He's not someone with multiple personalities or anything like that. He's not a bully. He's not this and that. And the guy was rude, I guess. And then it's my dad called, and that's actually the first time my dad had called, and then there was another time he called, and I'll get to that story in a second. But anyway, yeah, with that being said, nothing came of it. I got no apologies. I got nothing, but I never got suspended, and I'd never seen this kid again, or even that counselor guy again. So who knows? Maybe he lost his job because I'd never seen him before that. I'd never seen him since then. And this little girl who I'd never seen before, I don't recall if I'd ever seen her again after that either. So who knows what happened there? All I know is that I got blamed for something I didn't do, and I was 10 years old. Went home in tears because of Mr. Counselor Bad Cop decided to bully a 10-year-old. So, but there was also another time when my dad called a grocery store because I would have been the same age because we were living at the same apartment, and we only lived there for a year. So went into a grocery store, and I remember it was Miracle Mart because that was the store next door. I don't think Miracle Mart's it's long gone, but it was just like one of the bigger, like the chains like Dominion, Loblaws back then before Loblaws became massive like it is today. But anyway, so I'm in the store in the grocery store, and a woman was handing out cookies. Like how they do that sometimes. So I took a couple. I'm eating one, and this guy working at the store come by. He saw me eating it, and he just kind of gave me a look and then kept walking. So whatever. Then we're walking along, and there was like a cart, and there was a ripped open bag of popcorn. You know, so I'm a kid, so I see this torn up bag of popcorn. So I take a couple pieces, and I eat it, or I put it in my mouth. And this guy comes over, the same kid, and he's probably like a kid, right? So he comes over and literally smacks the popcorn out of my hand, and he says, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of, if all you can do is walk around here, cause problems, and eat things, get the hell out, or something like that. And right there in front of my mom, and my mom just kind of looked at him like, excuse me? And she gave him shit. And she said, like, well, first she said, what just happened? And I told her, and I got the cookie from the lady over there. And I just, so my mom gave him shit and said something to me. Got the cookie from the woman giving out samples, and it was a ripped bag of popcorn. He's a kid. What's the big deal, kind of thing, right? And then he started chirping away. Da, 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 da. So, and my mom had a big cart full of groceries, so she just left it there, and we left. Right? She said, fuck this place or whatever. And so we went home. We lived like right next door. It was like a 2-minute walk. So we got home, and then my dad got home a short time after that, and she told him what had happened at the grocery store. And my dad lost his shit. Like he got right on the phone and asked who was working, and told everything what happened, and that I was eating a free sample. I ate some popcorn that was going to go in the garbage anyway, and how this guy yelled at me and yelled at my mom, and he just said, "You better." He said something I don't remember because I was young, but something like, "I better get an apology." The same. It was pretty much the same thing he said about the guidance guy. If I don't get an apology from him, I'm going to go down there myself and make him apologize. And yeah, he would be able to do that. Now I don't know what came of it after that, but I'm sure an apology probably came his way. But I mean, I hope so, or at least the guy might have gotten written up or fired. But basically, I wasn't doing anything wrong, and this guy yelled at me and my mother, and it was not a good day for him. If my dad had been home when that happened, like I said, we lived right next door. It would have been a 2-minute walk. My dad would have turned right around, walked right in the store, and probably walked up to the guy and grabbed him and said, "What the fuck did you say to my wife and my son?" You know. And so this guy's lucky my dad wasn't home because he might not have made it home that night. The guy, he might have had a detour to the hospital or something. But and actually in the same building I was living in, just a little off story, a funny little thing. Me and my friend were selling Kool-Aid. When you have a Kool-Aid stand, you sell a glass of Kool-Aid or whatever it was for like 25 cents a glass, right? And usually people come along, oh, that's cute, whatever. And here's a quarter, here's some lemonade or lemonade Kool-Aid or whatever. And one funny thing that happened, my friend takes the jug right in front of this guy who just bought some and takes a big swig out of the jug itself, like glug, 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 and then puts it back down. And the guy just looked at him and goes, "Have you been doing that all along?" And I was a kid too, so I didn't really think much of it because 10, it's not really gross. As an adult, you're like, ew, I don't want that. I don't know what this kid's been picking his nose and eating it. Who knows? So the guy's just like, "If you've been doing that," I go, "No, no." And he's like, "No, that's the first time." And he's like, "Don't do that. That's gross." And he goes, "Okay." And then that was that. And then somebody came along and gave us $5. You know, so we're 10, and this is going back like so many years. So $5 then, especially to a 10-year-old, was might as well have been a $50 bill to us. So we were like, "Oh, cool." And then this bully from the neighborhood, I can't remember his name, some big fat kid, comes along and literally goes yoink, like he didn't say yoink, but he grabbed it out of my hand, and then he went over. There was a drugstore or something just inside because it was a mall, a little mall, same mall that the Miracle Mart was in. So he goes inside and he goes into the drugstore and he's getting change because there's all video games in the back of the drugstore. So, like I said, it was like literally a 2 minute walk. I ran all the way home, got my mom, told her what happened. My mom was mad as hell. She comes back with me, and he's still in line. I guess he had to wait in line. He's getting change, and we heard him say, "Who wants quarters?" And my mom walked right up. I remember she grabbed his shirt, took the money from his hand, and I don't know what she said, but basically, it was, "You ever touch my kid again, and there's going to be, and I don't know what she said, but if you ever, I don't start off, you ever touch my kid again." And he's like, "I was just joking. I was just joking." And then she's like, "You were getting change. I'm not stupid, But another kid I never saw again after that. But it was nice to see the bully shit his pants, courtesy of my mom. So that was an interesting story. But anyway, that was the story. The focus of the story was more what happened in school, but then a couple things just sort of popped into my head that I remembered around that time in my life. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say. If you want to hit the subscribe button, um, I got all kinds of random shit that you can watch if you're not a subscriber already or you haven't seen some of my other videos. But anyway, I really want to get closer to that thousand. My nose is itchy. That 1,000 subscriber mark. That would be fantastic. And I guess that's it for this one. And until the next one, bye.